So, Nita, welcome to Busted Open.
You guys should see the smile on my face right now hearing that mix and all that stuff. That is so nice. I wish I had my radio here that I could listen to it. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for having us on.
No, it goes beyond just him being a fan. And, I wish you did hear it. I'm going to have to send you a sound clip because he talks about that he thinks you're perfect with the women's revolution to be a part of the WWE, but just what a good person you are, not just to your fans, but everybody. And I got to meet you face to face earlier this week, and I'm looking forward to it this Friday when you're with Alice Cooper in Morristown, New Jersey. But a very genuine person, and Mick Foley made that very clear.
Thank you. And coming from the most genuine person I've ever met, Nick, that is a huge compliment.
So talk about this tour you're on right now. Alice Cooper on tour. Alice Cooper, iconic, a Hall of Famer. What's it like now with this new tour in Alice?
It's always fun for us to do. We're on a tour now. I think the official new name is Spend a Paranormal Evening with Alice Cooper, which is in reference to his new album Paranormal. And it's an evening with. There's no opening band. There's no, there's nothing really else going on except Alice Cooper. So we can really dive super deep into our set list. We do songs spanning his whole catalog, all the way, from the first album to Paranormal, the most recent one, and everything in between. So it's kind of cool for us to do these extra long, sort of more intimate theater shows and get to do something like that.
Now, my co-host today is Tommy Dreamer, Nita, and I know that you're a huge Tommy Dreamer fan. So somebody who's new to pro wrestling, how do you become a big Tommy Dreamer fan?
Well, so my boyfriend Josh, who's actually on the line with me now. Hi, Josh.
Hello.
Why did you tell me that, Josh? I mean, the King Josh V is on the line. You don't even let me know.
Josh V is here with us. I thought you'd know.
Dave, you're the one that said, hey, both of y'all call in on this time. I would have just been asleep in L.A. and let her call in.
You would have. So Josh is the one that introduced me to pro wrestling. He's been a fan since he was a kid. I grew up in a house with no TV, so I was completely unfamiliar with the world of pro wrestling. And when he started showing me, we started watching, I watched the WrestleMania a few years ago, and he said, if you like this, you've got to check out, the old school stuff, the 80s, 90s, Attitude Era. And he goes, you got to check out ECW. And I was like, ECW? I started watching it, and I got it immediately because I come from sort of like the ECW side of the rock world myself. I grew up playing in sweaty clubs, playing in metal bands, none of the big showy production that we have now with Alice Cooper. So it was cool to see a sort of side of the wrestling industry that mirrored the side of the rock industry that I grew up in.
Absolutely. I always say that, we're entertainers. We're in a different town every night. It's the hard work of the men and women and their talent, which will precede them to become, bigger and better. But always, like you say, in this tour, going back to smaller venues and roots like that, that's it. Actually, for me, like as much as I enjoyed wrestling at Madison Square Garden or even wrestling at WrestleMania, I love when I return to, my own company with House of Hardcore at the ECW Arena, just because of that intimacy and that audience with that, because those are your diehard fan base.
I couldn't agree more, honestly.
Does Alice Cooper, first of all, if you want to talk about someone with talent and then also use the gimmick too to get over, the biggest Alice Cooper fan that I know is Spike Dudley. And I remember being afraid of Alice Cooper just because of his look and all that stuff. And then I met him before. He's not the biggest guy. I was like, how could I be afraid of this guy? But just because you're under that illusion that, man, he could be worshipped the devil. He could put a spell on you. Has he ever talked to you about like wrestling or his involvement when he was at WrestleMania?
Yeah. He talked to me about WrestleMania 3 when he came out with Jake the Snake. When I first, I can't remember when we had this conversation, but it was pretty shortly after I started watching wrestling. We started talking about it. He goes, I was at WrestleMania, and started telling me all the stories about coming down, what it was like back then. And I don't think he really keeps up with it as much now, but he did have some really fond memories of doing that. And he does, it's interesting for me to see the transformation into the gimmick. And it's probably kind of similar with wrestlers, where where they have this big gimmick, and you talk to somebody off, when they're out of character and they're the nicest person in the world, and all of a sudden, Alex will go in his dressing room, put on his makeup, watch his kung fu movies, which is his ritual before the show, and he comes out and he's kind of mean. He's never actually been mean, but he just sort of has this don't talk to me, don't mess with me, we all get a little bit scared of him at that point. Nobody really goes in his dressing room. Nobody really asks him any questions about stuff. At that point, he sort of transforms into his gimmick, and that's when we kind of, start treating him a little bit more like that.
That happens to me. I kind of go in the zone. A cool moment for me as a fan, and I was on the card with him, The Undertaker. We were wrestling at a bull arena in Spain, and I just stepped aside, and I was talking to The Undertaker, having a regular conversation. He went down into this pit where the bulls would be, and then the purple smoke started coming in, and I saw him just take a breath, put a hat on, and I just got lost in that moment because I watched him become The Undertaker, and then when he opened up that screen, you saw thousands of fans. Wow. And I was like, this is an amazing moment that I'm only getting to experience, and just to see that was just whoa, I got to see someone transform it. And I know I get that once I hear my music. I have a little bit of a moment. Do you have a moment before you go out on stage?
Yeah, I have that same kind of thing. For me, I always kind of take a breath. I'll call Josh before every show, and he kind of even now, I've been doing this. I've been touring for 16 years this year, and even now, he'll kind of give me a little pep talk. He'll say, "Okay, go out there," our little words to pump me up, and then I'll sort of take a moment before, take a deep breath, make sure I'm limber, make sure I've stretched, my hands, my legs, my neck, every little thing, to sort of go through this mental checklist. Especially now that I don't drink, the mental checklist is a lot more important.
Do you feel it was, in wrestling right now, though the women always contributed, we have, the wrestler, the women revolution. Do you feel as a woman performer was harder for you?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think so, and I think it's cool to get to talk about this on Women's Day, which is today, as I found out from social media.
That's right, Tommy. Don't forget, it's National Women's Day today.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a big deal. You're a married man. You got to remember, it's National Women's Day today.
I have 3 women at my house. I love them all. I love women. Great. I'm happy that they have a day. Yesterday was National Oreo Day and Cereal Day. What happened to that day? It's way too many days, but women do need to be recognized.
But yeah, it was cool for me as a new fan to, and again, I think I have kind of a unique perspective on this because, again, Josh was showing me all the older, the wrestling clips and seeing how, it was cool. They had some amazing wrestling, with Lita and Trish and everybody, but it was very sort of it was so gimmicky, it was so over-sexualized, it was so and to become a new fan like I became a couple years ago, and to see the strong women, the women's revolution happening, that was a cool time to become a wrestling fan for a woman in the industry that was pretty similar. There's so many parallels. So yeah, I think you definitely have to prove yourself a lot more. You can't, I'm sure as a woman wrestler, it's the same thing. You can't really have a bad day. You can't really be off. You really have a bad show. The standard is a little different, but I enjoy it. I think it's a good challenge.
Who, and I'm just fascinated with this. I know Dave, he's more the music guy, but I'm just fascinated with all this because I like all the parallels. I'm good friends with Billy Corrigan. I know Zach Wilde, he's like every wrestler's favorite wrestler, so you could probably going to steal, as we say in the business, you'll steal his heat because you're a great performer. Who are you feel your pioneers or people that helped pave the way for you to be doing what you do?
Well, they were, do you guys remember seeing Michael Jackson at the Super Bowl?
Yes. 92 Super Bowl, Cowboys, Bills.
Bam, you remember more than I do.
He is so good at some things.
If you remember
some things, Tommy.
So Michael Jackson had this guitar player named Jennifer Batten, and I remember when I started playing guitar, my heroes were all dudes. Like I was into Metallica and Megadeth and, these instrumental guitar players like Steve Vai and Joe Satriani. And seeing Jennifer Batten on stage with Michael Jackson at the freaking Super Bowl, like the biggest stage there is. And she was so cool and she was so effortless and she was so, big blonde hair and amazing guitar playing and stuff like that went so much further for me than, like seeing someone that was actually up there, with the best of the best, being technically proficient and kicking ass, and looking cool doing it. That was a big moment for me.
All right, I gotta get the King Josh V into this conversation.
Yeah.
The guy's on the West Coast. It's like 3 hours behind. He doesn't wake up before noon, and he did just to be on part of this interview. So we got to get him included. And Josh, I just have to ask you, with now Nita, being a wrestling fan and you being the influence in her becoming a wrestling fan, what's that like for you? Because I know with my wife, I'm trying to get her interested in it. And, as my wife, she likes to have some of the same interests, but to see her now become like a uber fan, and now somebody like a Mick Foley calling into the show and saying somehow, some way she has to be a part of WWE. What's that like for you?
Oh, hold on. Let me get up for a second now. What?
Listen, you son of a bitch. You better answer this question.
Over there.
Well, the thing that's interesting is, I grew up watching wrestling at a really young age and stopped watching it probably around when the merge happened, WWF and WCW, because I felt the storylines weren't the same. So I would come in and out till about probably the WrestleMania that Sting got signed. I was like, you know what? Let me watch this. Holy shit, you got to watch this, Nita. And so
that was my first WrestleMania that I watched.
I showed her. I was like, you got to watch this. And she had no idea who any of these people were, why it mattered that Sting was there, why it was a big deal. And so I was like, and that WrestleMania was
Sting came out in the daytime.
Right. It came out during the daytime. And I was like, look, you just got to watch. You don't get it, but you have to watch this other stuff. So I actually started her watching, showing her documentaries on the whole Monday Night Wars. And when she started seeing that, she started understanding it better. And then I started going even further back with like ECW and old school WWF. And then it really clicked in for her. So to see her get it, especially the parallels with wrestlers and touring musicians, and to see her get it and get into it, it's pretty cool, And now she's really into a lot more of the older stuff than the newer stuff, but, we still kind of watch and pay attention to what's going on now.
Well, Josh, now the pressure's on you because you showed her her first WrestleMania. Now you have to take her to her first ever WrestleMania. So, Josh, as it always is in a relationship, the pressure's on the man. The pressure is now on you to take Nita to a WrestleMania.
Well, we're actually trying to plan that out right now.
All right, so maybe we'll see the King Josh V and Nita in New Orleans, Tommy.
Should be. Just hit up Triple H. He's a big rock and roll guy. Drop the, say
That's right.
Motorhead. You tour with him. You're good. Just get him a free ticket. He'll like to take a picture of it on Instagram so he looks cool, and then you're good.
I will get him. You know what? Actually, we're actually in Connecticut right now. I should have thought of that earlier.
Now they have security. It used to be actually, when I used to work there in the office, it used to be a lot. I was security, but I used to have to go down and talk to the fans. Now they have armed guards, you can't get into the venue. But just say, hey, drop a few names.
Here's the thing.
Josh will find a way in.
Nita, why don't you tell Tommy about the clip that you liked about the kendo stick?
Oh, I love that. The kendo, because seeing the raw emotion in that, that put you over to me. I learned the words.
When I got caned for real by the Sandman, I've been caned so much. You got to be specific.
Yeah, Nita.
Is that the one, Josh?
I set you up. Come on, you know the line. Jesus.
Thank you, sir. May I have another? Yep. I was a bit of a masochist, and I got a lot of scars for it. But yes, it is about passion. It was, that was literally the dues that you pay in life just to try to get to where you are, and you never got to. And you always be paying your dues. It was a real moment that was captured on film, and I will live forever because of that. And I love that stuff. It's funny. I hosted Ozfest. And if you talk about, there's an eclectic group of rock and roll, fans, wrestling fans are eclectic as well. And I hosted Ozfest, and I go, and I don't ask many people for pictures. I wanted to get a picture with Ozzy Osbourne, huge Ozzy fan. So they introduced me as, WWE wrestler. And he's like, "Oh, nice to meet you." And then right away he goes, "I did a WrestleMania." Like, he was like, and I was like, "Yeah, man, I ordered it."
I know.
But it's once we had that, he's like, "I was with the Bulldogs, mate. Do you know them?" And I'm like, "No," but it's just, so right then and there we had that wrestling connection. And once you have a wrestling connection, you're connected forever.
Totally.
And it's cool how there's a lot of those connections in the music world and the wrestling world, and there's a lot of, the merging with entertainment and wrestling is really cool to see, and how it's, since WrestleMania 1, it's just continued on, It's really cool.
I was at WrestleMania 1. That was my first ever WrestleMania. It was one of the greatest nights I ever had, just when people talk about great concerts. I always say wrestling and music are so correlated in the sense of it could take you to an exact moment, an exact time where you were, a feeling, an emotion, and that's the beauty of it, and that's why we are connected.
Well, Alice Cooper is on tour right now, so you can see Nita Strauss. I will be there Friday night in Morristown, New Jersey. Like she said, she's in Connecticut now. And then, of course, I have to ask you this. Any plans on a solo album anytime soon?
Yes, I'm actually in the process of writing that right now. I released my first solo song, Pandemonium, last year. It's actually got Josh playing drums on it. There's a music video for that and everything all online. And the response is so amazing. I thought we have to do a full album of this. So it's coming. I'm writing it. I've got all my recording gear out with me on the road now. I'm just writing it in between hotels and bus lounges and anywhere I can find the time. So it's definitely going to come in 2018.
And Josh, I've spoken to you on email before, correct?
Yes, we did.
Okay, I just got to remember because I get so many friggin' emails and yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he sent you a picture of my Tommy Dreamer for President shirt.
Yes, that's how we initially met. It was funny that morning. A lot of people, and I was like, "Who's this hot girl wearing my shirt?" Because most hot girls don't wear my stuff anymore. And then I was like, "Oh, okay." And I started doing my research, and then I got the emails. So we are connected now, and hopefully, I get to see you guys one day and just rock out, as they say. I'm not a big rock guy, but I was cool. I even did the double horns.
The King Josh V and Hurricane Nita Strauss. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank
you guys for having us.